Okay, we're live on Facebook.
We're
Ready to
good.
go?
Yeah.
Welcome to our media availability. We addressed Medical Cannabis Day in our special session, our driver's license that need to have a star on them. And we also addressed
Prison.
prison, yes. We're going to pay cash for the prison instead of bonding, at least a portion of it. That's the three bills we addressed today. I'll open it up for some questions. We have Senator Vickers here, who is our majority leader-elect and the sponsor of the medical cannabis bill.
Senator Vickers, a few different amendments proposed, some received more warmly than others. How likely would you say it is that we'll see some additional legislation in the general session looking at some of the debate today?
You know, looking at the prescriptive nature of the bill and, you know, the interest in some of those potential amendments, especially there's, you know, two amendments proposed by Senator Escamilla that I think need, you know, further discussion, as well as the point she brought up last, you know, falling in the child custody area. Those are things that we need to look at. And quite frankly, there's other things that as you come to, because of the prescriptive nature of the bill, there's other things that are going to come up. So I'm guessing that there's going to be, I would wish there wouldn't, but I think there will be some kind of a cleanup piece in the session.
Why not accept those amendments today?
Well, we need to get the process going, you know, and as you look at that, I think that we need to make it clear what the policy is going to be of the state. If you have Prop 2, but the intention is to not have Prop 2, that creates some concern amongst people and some confusion. And so we wanted, if possible, if we're going to land on this compromise piece of legislation, let's get it out there, get it going, and get that process started so that we can get things implemented. So waiting just would create more confusion and, quite frankly, delay the time frame when patients can receive access to medication too.
And there's another point also, is we've had a group of stakeholders, we've held public meetings on a certain bill, and now to make some substantive amendments on the floor, it would be better for us to deal with those in the general session, where they go to a committee, they get public input, and then we can make those adjustments in law.
I didn't hear anything, you know, that was, you know, major shift in policy in the bill. You know, there's definitely some things that could be addressed and should be addressed, I believe. You know, and that's one of the things. That's why you involve 104 legislators. You know, that they look through it with maybe with a different set of eyes than you know the sponsors and others, and they pick up on things that you may have missed, and that's exactly what happened today.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
If you have a question.
This is probably a better question for the House, but I'm here in the room with you guys. Looking at the math on the driver's license vote in the House, they didn't quite get the 2/3 majority, if I have my math right. I'm curious if you are aware, President, what that means for timeline, implementation.
Well, it still passes, but it doesn't have immediate effective date. And that happens in 60 days.
Yeah, is it 30 or 60? I can't remember. No, sorry, I don't
It's
know.
the end of the session to about first part of May. Anyway, before that actually becomes law, we'll have to wait a period of time, and then it becomes law, and there's a waiting period. And I don't think that's going to hinder it too much. We'd like to have had an immediate effective date so they can start working on replacing everybody's driver's license because of a little star. But regardless, that's what we have to do, or it's going to be inconvenient for our constituents, especially if they go to the airport and they're turned away. That'll be a bad day here in Utah, and so we want to get it started as soon as possible. I think without the immediate effective date, it just delays it probably a month to 2 months.
Yeah, so, and Senator Van Tassel was talking to some leadership, and so the question may be better for him or Senator Harper, but they indicated that every month we delay costs the state $85,000. I don't know why that is, but you know, that's maybe something you can follow up with them on, because I'm not positive on that.
What should Utahns who may be interested in seeing whether they qualify for medical marijuana, what should they know about generally when it's going to become available to them now that this bill has passed?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the timelines, you know, specific hard timelines in the bill are March of of 2020 to have licenses going out to facilities, and then there's kind of a hard stop on January 1st of 2021, because that's when the language in there on the affirmative defense falls away and reverts back to Prop 2 language. And those were put in basically as incentives for the state to move forward. Now, we do have commitments from the governor's office that they're willing to move forward on a quicker timeline and get this up and running as fast as possible. You know, and I alluded to in the dialogue on the floor that HB 185, 186, and the bills that we put together last year, that the right to try and also industrial hemp production in the state for commercial use, that has started a process to allow, you know, to get growers, cultivators, and processors in place to provide that service. And so therefore we actually, that's already in the works. So if we can tag team on that and get the governor's office and get the rest of it ramping up, you know, we potentially can have medication to them in 2019.
We welcome Senator Davis with us. Also, he's our minority leader, and so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Any questions you have for him?
You expressed some concerns about the compromise bill, but ended up voting in favor. But regardless, can you kind of describe kind of your thought process behind that?
You know, I supported the Proposition 2. I believe that we should have medical marijuana. I had that position when Senator Madsen first brought the bill forward, and we got it down to the Judiciary Committee. And when we moved it to the House was the fact that we knew sooner or later that the state of Utah would embrace medical marijuana, one way or the other, either by legislative or by the public themselves. I believe that the majority of people voted for Prop 2 for one reason, and that is to have access to medical marijuana. I believe the bill, it's called a compromise bill, but it really isn't a compromise. It really takes Prop 2 and puts it in place with the parameters that are needed. It makes it a prescription drug instead of a drug that anybody can just go out and get on wherever they can find their neighborhood pusher to get it from, or to bring it in from out of state. This puts regulations in place, puts the need in place, and everything that is needed. And so that was the reason that I voted for it, is because I think it puts medical marijuana in place, and the distribution, and the access in place.
Senator Escamilla also has joined us, and welcome.
Hi. I was a no vote.
So she's the lone no vote.
I think one thing that we had great discussion on the bill, and the amendments that were offered by Senator Escamilla has really brought forward some of the things that we need to do. This is not a pure bill.
Yeah.
This is something that's going to have to be addressed, because all kinds of issues are going to come up over time that we're going to have to open. In fact, I hope she's already open a file to deal with some of these amendments that are going to have to be put in there.
This is somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but when Senator Henry suggested, you know, is the reason you're suggesting this amendment because the House is no longer in session and things could fall apart? Is there anything at all to that? Or?
No,
Okay.
I didn't even think about
I'd
it.
ask you to really knew that.
Yeah, I was like, no, I was like, oh, they're supposed to be there. I mean, I think they were expected
drafted when?
at 11 a.m., yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just really, I mean, the policy was pretty complicated. I mean, it's a large bill. And we've taken on those big bills that every year we come back and we're making changes. So it's not necessarily out of the process that we do. I did go to the speaker and Senator Vickers about the timing. I still have a lot of problems with the timing. I think we could have done this during the session, and more constituents probably would have not felt the slap in the face that I think they feel right now. But we still needed to address the fact that the way Prop 2 was drafted is not ready to be implemented. I mean, there's a lot of logistical things that are not addressed in the initiative, and I think that was the intent of the bill. So with that said, I mean, let's talk the bill, and that's where I had some conversation and the amendments. I've been part of that committee for the last 6 years, so I've heard every single bill that has been brought up, you know, of the medical camp, including Senator Mattson in judiciary, because I was in that committee with him, and actually I chaired that committee when his bill passed. So I mean, I've been through those conversations. I'm by no means an expert, but we've done enough research here, I think, in the legislature. And I don't know that there's a silver bullet solution. I mean, this is like a new place for us, and we're gonna make a lot of mistakes. And so I'm hoping to continue working, I mean, on language, but it's a very big bill to even try to handle in one session. I mean, it's gonna take a lot of sessions. But no, I wasn't trying. I mean, it was funny that Senator Andrew brought that up. Great idea. No, I mean, it was the timing, but I mean, they're supposed to be still here. I mean, that's like the whole point. You're not, you know, the president or the speaker is the one that says we're done for the day. So I was under the impression they're here. And
Right. For voters, this is for any of you, but for voters who do feel maybe a little bit left out in the cold with this result today, I mean, what would your message be to them, and you know, how can they regain a sense of control over the process?
Well, keep reaching out to your representatives. We will be in general session beginning the 4th Monday in January. Express your concerns. It isn't our intent just to negate the will of the people. We knew months in advance that there were some difficulties with it. Maybe we've gone a little bit further than just solving the difficulties. But we brought together the people that actually sponsored the initiative, and they actually came to us saying, we know there's some problems, we want to work with you. And we made an announcement the first part of October and let people know that this was our intent, is to come back. And so it wasn't just complete out of left field that we did this. Everybody had had many days to digest that. We had an open meeting, 7 hours, I'm told, last Monday night. And we had 2 interim committee meetings on this same bill, which is probably more than a lot of bills get as far as a public process is concerned. And so as far as a public process, it's had as much public process as any bill we've ever passed here in the legislature, or very close anyway. So I don't feel like we've, you know, completely, I mean, it isn't like this complete circumvent of the will of the people. People knew it. What most of my constituents are saying, just reflect what Senator Davis and his constituents are saying. We want medical marijuana, we want to have access. But there's also a lot of them are saying, we also want you to put guardrails in place because we have 600,000 plus children in this state, and we don't want them having easy access to a gateway drug.
So in the Senate, there are 29 senators. It takes 15 senators for a majority to pass a bill or to defeat a bill. We did some research and tried to find out how many Senate districts the bill is passed in, the initiative, the proposition. That research isn't quite done yet, but we have found that it failed in at least 15. So it failed in the majority. So if you wanted to follow the will of the people, logic would tell you you would repeal it. Because in the 15 senators' districts, if they were to follow the will of their people, they would vote against it like their citizens did. I don't think that's great legislative process. I think the legislature has seen what's happened, the proposition passed. I think we somehow have to represent the will of the people in our individual Senate districts and look at the state as a whole too and balance those. And that's what our responsibility is as legislators. And I think that's what we did. The proposition, on the floor somebody said the proposition, we're not aware that it had a multi-partisan effort in crafting it. We're not aware that after it was crafted, it was put on a website. We're not aware that there were any public hearings after the proposition, the wording was there. They got signatures, of course, and got that type of an effort. But But with this change, we brought people on both sides, this new draft, and Senator Vickers has done so much work on, and the Speaker, that, as the Senate President said, we've had it out on public websites. We've had, I think, 3 hearings, 2 interim meetings, and then a separate 7-hour. After each of those meetings, it's been refined, put back out on the public. It's been more transparent than anything we see during the session. This isn't a perfect process, but we've tried, and I think we've done a good job.
Any other questions?
So this was something that was introduced in the House today, but I just wanted to kind of get a feel for whether there's any appetite for this in the Senate. So I believe it was Representative Green mentioned an amendment to not require those ages 18, 19, and 20 to get a secondary approval besides that of their doctor from the Compassionate Use Board. He was hoping to eliminate that and allow them to get qualified for a card in the same way that other adult patients would. Is that something that any of you foresee as something that could be feasible for passing in the Senate?
So I'll try to answer that. There's, I understand the proposal, but there's some science behind that too. One thing that there's really good science, and both from a scientific and a medical standpoint, is that THC used on a continuous basis can permanently destroy minds, and young minds up to age 25, and so and Senator Adams was a strong proponent of keeping that at 21 and just having another step, another qualification step to use that, and that's why that portion of the bill was implemented. Like any other policy, any other particular aspect of the bill, we can have that discussion. And I'm not sure how the new bodies, being the bodies that would take office in January, would vote on that, but I would say, personally, I would like to leave it where it's at and let's get it up and running, and then if that's something we see that is worthy of a change, then that's fine. But I think right now it's a good policy to stay with.
And this is just kind of, oh, I'm sorry.
I think the one thing is, if you go back to Senator Escamilla's amendment, having the Senate approval of the Compassionate Board as they're vetted through the Senate, we're going to be able to, especially those who are reappointed to the board, we're going to have the ability and the opportunity to ask them questions about what's working and what's not, and whether that 18-year-old is the proper thing for them to be doing, or should be under age 18 only. So there's a whole compassionate issue that if we do that amendment, then we have access to amend law and to make things better.
And Senator Davis-Green's a good point about the Compassionate Use Board, that is a really valuable tool that we will have in place to give us the kind of information that we need to make better policy decisions in the future.
And this is just kind of informational, I should know this, but did the vote require 2/3 approval because it's not overturning, but making changes to what was passed in a ballot initiative?
No, the reason why we have 2/3 mainly is we wanted to have an immediate effective date. And we have to have 2/3 to do that. That's the main reason.
Gotcha, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
If you walk